Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
I raise Angora rabbits and I spin their wool into yarn, and then usually I knit with it, or you could weave with it also. But I make small items. This Barbie is wearing a little Angora shawl for my bunnies. This puppet's made out of the hair from my bunnies. That one is my own design. One of the things that I'm always asked when I'm demonstrating spinning is, do you kill your rabbits? We do not kill our rabbits to harvest their wool. We love our bunnies and we harvest their wool humanely. We pluck it when they're naturally molting. It's like when your dog is shedding and it's just falling off, and believe me, they are glad to get rid of it. This one right over here in this center cage he's a nice big buck. They can see how big they look. That's Pigeon. We have Pigeon and Smidgen. This one's about 4 or 5 days old now, not ready to open his eyes. They usually open their eyes about 7 to 10 days. You can see how they're born just pretty much naked, and their fur is just starting to come in. You're just being able to see what colors they're going to wind up. Good, and now he's getting his white hair. This one's going to be white. Once they're born, it doesn't take, by the time they're 6 weeks old, they're looking fluffy and they're starting to get their nice Angora coat. Some of my rabbits' hair grows between 5 and 8 inches long. It's really much longer than most people realize. And the rabbits themselves are much smaller than most people realize, because they look like these big puff balls, but once you get the hair off, they're just a little rabbit underneath. Mine are not purebreds. I have been raising, crossing the German Angora, which is a German giant, a good-sized rabbit, so you get a nice harvest off of a bigger rabbit. And the French Angoras have a lot of guard hair, and that's what I like, because that is what makes the beautiful halo effect that is associated with Angora. When you first spin the yarn, it's just nice and smooth, and it doesn't have that fuzziness to it. This little pussycat hat, you can see how it's developed the Angora halo. But the fiber is so fine that as you knit with it and as the item is used, it just keeps getting better and better because it gets fuzzier and fuzzier. This is some of the Angora wool from my rabbits. This came from the black bunny out there. It's actually looks much blacker on the rabbit, but it's just the tips that are black, and it's a lighter color underneath. Let me get my wheel going here and show you how I spin it. What's nice about spinning Angora is it comes off the rabbit nice and clean. I don't have to scour it or wash it or clean it in any way, because it's just lovely right off the rabbit. Once in a while I have to pick out a little piece of hay maybe, but that's all. It doesn't have lanolin or grease in it like sheep's wool. I'm spinning it pretty fine because it's a really fine fiber and it wants to be spun fine. I kind of go along with what it wants to do. It just makes it easier. Angora is actually 7 times warmer than sheep's wool. And the reason for that, even though it's such a fine, fine fiber, it's hollow. It has air inside of it. And it feels like air. You can put a big bunch of it in your hand and you can't even feel that it's there. It's just so light. What I'm doing is I'm pinching it off here and pulling it out to the size I want. And when I let go, that twist travels up. That's all there is to it. And it has other benefits. Actually, sitting and spinning will actually lower your blood pressure. It's sort of a, I suppose, meditation in a way. It would take the place of that. I think one thing kind of leads to another. I know I learned to knit very early when I was only about 4 years old from my Auntie Lou. And later on, I wanted to be able to spin my own yarn. If you can't find a yarn commercially that's just exactly what you have in mind, you can spin it yourself. You don't need to rely on a commercial product. You can match your own vision. I can spin Angora. I love to spin Angora, but I spin a lot of other fibers as well, and I can mix and match and blend them any way I please. I can make the most wonderful socks in the world by using wool that has a lot of bounce and elasticity to it, and adding some Angora that has the softness and the warmth, and maybe a little mohair for the heels, because that's a real sturdy fiber and will wear well. We need to keep this knowledge alive, because who knows when we might really need it. Plus, this is an activity that I guess it's a counterpoint to all the technology in the world now. This is something you're doing by hand. And it gives you a real feeling of satisfaction when you're done, that you did this yourself.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.